You're here early. Sometimes it's good to be early. But our show starts at a specific time. You should remember that. Let's get started then, shall we?
Dillon, I don't give a what you think about a co-host and crushing up my show.
It might not be flashy, but sometimes you just gotta toss another person to make a statement.
My show's about the people's podcast. Everyone has a voice. I don't need a co-host. Go listen to one of the other 5,000 shows with a co-host because they don't have a mouth like the big guy.
Opie, are you a career killer with Tim Sabian, yourself, and many others?
Be myself. Never had real issues with those people. They just understood that I was a different bird. The rest of them, though, I'm like, oh, shut up. I'm paying your salary because the ratings are so good, so shut up.
Right?
Live from
Somewhere.
it's
Dillon.
Good whatever to you, whenever you are listening to this. We are coming to you today on TBS time because I was having some audio issues. I want to get you on the good mic, not the shitty mic. I was even thinking, do I cancel today's episode if I cannot get the good mic to be recognized by this software? Thank you all for tuning in, and everyone's a bit late today. Our moderator, De La Rochi, dropping in before he has to go away and come back in. That's how I fixed the problem of the audio. I went out and I came back in, and we're at the TBS time, which is okay for the 90s. I'm going to be doing two things at once. Look, Mom, I'm doing it. I'm jacking off and I'm eating. Two things. I got to drive. I'll be back in 15. Thank you guys for tuning in. Who's Mike? This is my buddy Mike, the unspoken hero of the show, Michael. Michael Wave, if you work in a shitty restaurant, is the head chef. But we are not talking about food today. We are talking about comic books. I am your co-host, Dillon, and today's host, is Comic Drake, and he will be talking about Ken Penders, who is the only reason he is not the most bizarre Sonic writer is because Chris Chan exists. So we are going to dive right into this. As you see here, he is dressed up all nice. I could not find my sweater vest. I guess, actually, now I remember what I did with my sweater vest. I got too fucking fat for it, and I had to give it to Goodwill. And hopefully one day I won't be too damn fat for my sweater vestering. But we are going to go to the beginning of this video where we see a commercial, of course, and get a little bit more familiar with Comic Drake and this weirdo known as Ken Penders.
Unless you've actively been keeping up with them,
I do not have a onesie to go along with his starting outfit. He has a few changes of outfits, does our buddy Comic Drake. And I couldn't match his onesie, so I got myself a collared shirt and a tie, Sonic blue and gold, to go together with today's theme. And tell us some more about your experience with Sanjay the Hedgehog. Oh, no, not 1080p. That's too much for my little baby laptop to handle. Sorry, folks, we've got to take it down to 720.
You might not realize that the Sonic comics are a massive deal in the comic book industry, and they've been wrapped up in one of its biggest series of legal battles. These books are infamous for how straight up bonkers they are. From Tails fusing with his many multiversal variants to become a massive titan of nearly endless power, to Knuckles having
Titan Tails. Never made it to the gaming arena, did Titan Tails.
Been revealed to have been a genetically modified superweapon because his dad experimented on him as a kid, to one character straight up dying from eating a chili dog that was laced with LSD. See, although it started...
No shit, we got tripping on acid to the point of dying in these Sonic comics. So this is all from our buddy Ken Penders?
With silly slapstick humor, the Sonic comics evolved into an insane furry political soap opera with minimal oversight from Sega, which they would come to regret considering that things got so unbelievably absurd both in the comics and behind the scenes that Sega had to come in and completely destroy the comic book universe twice. And at the center of it all is one man, the single most hated person in the entire Sonic fandom, the Mad
Ken Penders. So they New 52'd theirself twice so far, the Sonic comics, and I think they retired recently. I feel like I remember seeing a report about that. Today is game day. You are right, Dayla. My guest for subreddit surfing is feeling under the weather. She has got me panicked like a motherfucker that she will not be able to make it. But she is booked. She wants to make the appearance. And I was like, if you could just make it, let's aim for an hour rather than the full 90 minutes. And I did choose a subject which I have some insight on in case such a thing happened. Booking guests when you aren't paying them, that is a pain in the fucking ass. When you pay people to show up, they always show up. But this was actually my fourth topic I chose for subreddit surfing because booking the guest is fucking pain.
God of Sonic himself.
And also why I made this show in this fashion. So all I have to do is rely on my internet connection. Don't you leave me to internet connection.
W. Penders II. By weaving his way through the law, Ken Penders managed to walk away with over 200 characters, and is now using them to create this. And how it ended up happening is truly...
Ken Penders is getting into the sexy furry industry. Somehow weirder than sexy clowns to me.
Bizarre. So for my 400,000 subscriber special, I have combed through pages and pages worth of legal documents, publications, and blogs to capture all of the twists and turns of this massive debacle. Strap in, folks, because this one's a doozy. Hello.
You're going to strap in, but my girlfriend's going to strap it on.
Welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books, and my name is Drake. Let's talk about it. Okay, it's the middle of summer in Texas. I cannot keep wearing this. It's too damn hot. But before jumping into things, I need to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video.
So many outfit changes. Look at him getting into a Sonic Blue t-shirt before finally settling on his sweater vest and tie combo.
Video, Skillshare. Skillshare.
So I guess this is kind of like a combination between his second and third outfit.
My link for getting a month of Skillshare absolutely. The comic book adaptation of Sonic the Hedgehog was released in 1992 and was loosely based on the cartoon by Deep Entertainment.
Deep.
That did always make me laugh at it as a kid. I'm like, that says dick.
This show, lovingly referred to as Sonic Sat AM by its fans because of its Saturday morning time slot, is rather different from the small handful of video games that were released at the time. In this continuity, Dr. Robotnik had already succeeded in taking over the world before the events of the show. It was Sonic's mission to take him down with the help of the Freedom Fighters, a group of animal commandos that were created specifically for this cartoon.
And I didn't see this one as much as, because this was the Saturday morning. So we got like 13 episodes of this Dark Sonic per year. And then we had the Wacky Sonic 5 days a week in the afternoon. I saw that one much more often. Rochi figured out he can do two things at once. You came everywhere and you proved yourself.
Although Sat AM was certainly darker than Sonic Media up until that point, it was still very lighthearted. And the comic that followed, produced over at Archie Comics, was much more the same, if not more childish.
And this introduced chili dogs as Sonic the Hedgehog's favorite snack. I will always remember that. Actually, Jaleel White, Urkel, he was Sonic the Hedgehog in both those cartoon versions. I've never seen a chili cheese dog in any of the Sonic video games, but cartoon Sonic loves him some chili cheese dogs. Love me some chili cheese dogs from Sheetz. Love me some subs from Wawa. Hoagies, they call their subs. My mistake.
Early issues were extremely silly and downright nonsensical at times, like when Sonic got flung into an alternate dimension where he met a couple of physics-defying imps named Vertical and Horizontal. Remember them because they're actually going to come up later. But when the comics editor heard that one of the writers
What about Bundy Owl?
might be stepping down, he started looking for anyone to take over. The editor approached a man named Mike Kantarovich for the job, but Mike had never even heard of Sonic before, prompting him to hit up his close friend and colleague, Ken Penders, who had a son that was an avid video.
What a mustache. Let's get a good look at that fucking mustache. That is epic mustache points on Ken Penders. A little too fast? I can take it down to regular speed. I was thinking he was sounding kind of fast. We were at 1 1/4. Yeah, let's keep it at just regular ass speed for the rest of this show because he was talking a bit fast. I do agree with that, Dayla.
Video game fan. Although Penders was by no means a big-name creator at the time, he had worked for plenty of big comic publishers, including Marvel, DC, and even Disney, which, by the way, used to be a huge deal way back in the day. For context, Donald Duck is, to this day, the single most published comic book character outside of the superhero genre. Penders and Kantarovich got the job and were basically allowed to do whatever they wanted, with neither Sega or Archie Comics giving them any guidelines on what kind of stories they wanted, or even what the characters they were writing were supposed to be like.
We would just pitch
bring the mustache back.
and we had no feedback.
You are much less attractive without that mustache. I'm not into guys, but I know what ugly looks like, and that is ugly. Bring that mustache back, sir.
However, they didn't tell us what stories to write. They didn't tell us what the characters should be like. The only thing they said was Sonic is cool and hip. That's it. That's the only direction we were given. You know, he has attitude.
Despite the lack of direction, Ken and Mike's Sonic comic was a rousing success, but it quickly turned into a solo project for Ken as Mike decided to journey out to greener pastures. As time went on, the tone of the series
He went out to Green Hill Zone to live the rest of his days.
Shifted from slapstick humor to something quite a bit more serious, like this whole sequence about how Sonic now understands the true meaning of war. Oh, and remember horizontal and vertical?
Really? We get like Deep Space Nine type war episodes of the Sonic comic? I bet Ken Penders was a fan of Deep Space Nine at this time and was like, the way they took Star Trek dark, I am going to take Sonic the Hedgehog dark.
Well, Ken turned them into robotic demigods that went to war with each other because each of them believes the other is responsible for the near destruction of their dimension. Look, these comics were weird. Penders was absolutely obsessed with his creations, heavily focusing on their romantic lives and constantly introducing long-lost relatives.
And that was always weird to me. That, what was it, a Dreamcast game where Sonic was saving a human princess? Just in general, Robotnik was the only human that we saw in Sonic media forever. So when Sonic got a princess with a furry fetish, that was just fucking weird.
Especially with Knuckles' family. Like, this dude even put out an extensive family tree.
Oh, wow. He really got into the Knuckles family. And, yep, everything branches off. There is no incest in the Knuckles family line, so that's good.
Painstakingly laying out his lineage, which also reveals that his girlfriend is a distant cousin. Like, I get that it's so...
Oh, I fucked that up. It looks like it branches very well. Knuckles...
Are you sick of
I'll
having
be
issues with
kajiggered.
your webinars?
I read that family tree all wrong. Knuckles is a cousin fucker. We should have known.
Relation doesn't really matter, but they don't have to be related. You don't have to write that. But hey, I mean, keep the bloodline pure, I guess. The Knuckles stuff used to just be tacked onto the back of the Sonic comics.
Knuckles Habsburg.
But eventually he got his own book, allowing for the Knuckles lore to wildly spin out of control, more or less interrupted by the main Sonic series. Additionally, because of that, the Knuckles comics were almost entirely about Ken's own original characters, so he wasn't beholden to most of the...
He is Chris Chan. So do we have Ken Penders Chew coming in here?
Few guidelines that say
Penders Chew?
They get demanded. So Penders could basically do any storyline that he wanted. But out of all of his creations, it's Lara Sue, the future daughter of Knuckles, that Penders has the greatest fascination with.
Ken Penders has jerked it to Knuckles' daughter.
It'll inform a lot about his future, ultimately leading to...
Ooh, this is weird.
Regardless,
like that was designed to give dudes boners. Those two. He really just wanted to make these furry characters. How many different furry outfits does Ken Penders own?
Sonic comics were a massive success, thanks to the character's popularity in other mediums, a highly devoted fan base, and actually selling the comics.
I've been throwing a lot of nerds at you lately. Yes, I have, Rochi. And this week will be many more nerds, along with the Angry Video Game Nerds creator, James Rolfe, on Wednesday. Tomorrow, either a Star Trek, some TV nerd. I've got a few in the final contenders for the nerd for tomorrow. And this is all, of course, the nerds for the new gaming show, the relaunch of Annie's gaming show. I will be co-hosting with her on Wednesday. So that is why we are getting into the nerds this week.
In places like grocery stores instead of dedicated out-of-the-way shops. It's almost as if selling stuff where people are actually going results in people buying it. Who'd have thought? Due to his clout within the Sonic franchise, Penders was invited to work on other official stuff, like the cover art for the DVD box set of
There you go. You need to hide that ugly, ugly face with as much facial hair as possible. Take it from me. People think I'm handsome with this beard. Without the beard, they think I'm less so. And it's also where I go, where I am handsome or not. Here and somewhere, handsome. Over in Los Angeles, average as fuck.
But Ken decided that he wanted to be even more involved, leading to his magnum opus, Sonic Armageddon. In 2002, Ben Hurst, one of the writers...
Sonic Armageddon. So we already know that Sonic gets deep into the war type of storylines. And next week, we will indeed have a Cassie Baxter palette cleanser. She will be next Monday. Cassie Baxter Part 2 on co-host auditions. We will get away from these nerds. Comic book nerd today, video game nerd Wednesday, some sort of TV nerd tomorrow.
Writers for Sat AM pitched a continuation of the classic show as either a new season or as a movie. When word got to Penders that Hearst was trying to get the ball rolling, he wanted in. Although Ben brought Ken on board, Penders stabbed his new collaborator in the back and went directly to Sega, essentially telling them, Hearst is trying to take the hedgehog for his own. End him and give the rodent to me. I'll bring you something beautiful. For some reason, Sega actually listened to Ken, and he went off to work on this pitch.
Uncle Chuck! Uncle Chuck!
Oh no, where is this going?
Whoa! This is way past cool.
What is even going on? A little help, Comic Drake. What the fuck are we doing? What are we looking at?
More of this, but because of how trigger happy Penders gets with lawsuits, which trust me, we will be.
And Annie is better than Beetlejuice. Just one mention of her name, and she is virtually here, not 3.
Getting into later in the video, I honestly think that he would try to take me to court over this. I mean, hell, I'd be extremely surprised if he didn't try to take down this entire video, regardless. But still, I need you guys to remember something extremely important here.
Are you going to come after me too, Ken Penders? He is a litigious guy. I heard a little bit about this, like him really wanting suing Sega for his characters, which he created under their umbrella, which Sega legally owns. I'm sure we will get into that soon.
Ken legitimately went to Sega and sat them down to watch this pitch.
Whoa.
Now, the concept art that Penders drew up for the project was significant.
Oh, that was a pitch. Really? That shitty animation of just confusion was your pitch of how... Wow. Congratulations on keeping your job, Ken.
Better than the video. But Sega obviously declined the pitch, though they didn't seem too turned off by the dude since Ken was still allowed to work on the Sonic comics with, again,
he must have still had his mustache. Without that mustache, he's turning everyone off immediately.
Minimal oversight. This allowed Penders and his cohorts to continue to do whatever they wanted, like make a group of Nazi echidnas that straight up do the Sieg Heil. And also, they took one of the...
Oh my God, that's exactly the route that Chris Chan went. There were Nazis in Sonichu. There were Nazis in the Sonic comics. Oh my God, I didn't realize that Chris Chan actually was onto something and was being true to the Sonic extended universe by including Nazis in Quickville.
One of the most famous poems about the Holocaust, but changed up the words to make it about foxes and hedgehogs. Big yikes. All Sega ever really asked of Ken and his collaborators was to occasionally incorporate the recent game releases into the comic's plot, but they also refused to send him any of the games in question, or even resources for him to know what the games were even about. This came to a boiling point in 2006, when Penders was asked to incorporate the Shadow the Hedgehog game into the comic, causing him to leave in order to pursue work where he had a bit more creative control, specifically in Hollywood. Yeah, Ken, good luck with that.
Well, Ken Penders could certainly get work on, I don't know what network. They take all types of weird fuckers around there. You just need to find your niche. And Sonic was part of the Archie comics, right, Annie? Saying that the Archie comics are insane. I vaguely remember the Archie stamp being there on the Sonic comics in the 90s.
Whoa.
One of these projects was a political drama called The Republic, and all that ever got produced was a pilot episode, and it's not good.
Oh man, I'm late. I gotta go. Man, I'm late. I gotta go. Oh, hey, Betty, wait, careful. I got coffee. Bye-bye.
Penders also launched an indie comic in the year 2000.
Wow, that stunk. Like sometimes you just cast the wrong person, as I believe the wrong person was cast in Ahsoka for the purple-haired girl. She's been doing better in the later episodes, but those early episodes, woo-wee.
Called The Lost Ones, which is about Japanese superhumans that were mutated descendants of those who survived the nuclear bombs dropped in World War II. The comic was canceled after just one issue, but Ken was so convinced that this was a, quote, best-selling comic that he wanted to turn it into the next great superhero film. Here's a clip from the trailer because it was very much not that.
The best-selling comic book, Ken Penders. You're supposed to put money into this so people want to buy it. Oh boy, people just walking in place in front of green screens. It looks fucking garbage every time. See the Angry Video Game Nerd movie for how not to use a green screen, exactly like this guy is using a green screen. Oh, let's get another look at that in a little bit bigger view, shall we? And there. He just took a cell phone video at the airport and then plugged it in. They are not going the same speed at all. Yeah, look, you need a good director of photography to get lighting correct, especially at night, and you did not, sir.
To this day, Penders is still trying to get every single one of these projects off the ground. And you know what? More power to him. In any other circumstance, this would be where the story ends. This video would just be some lighthearted laughs about an eccentric creator and the weird stuff that he and his collaborators produced. But like I foreshadowed at the top of the video, what follows is one of the most insane legal battles in all of comic history. Penders is a complete underdog, and throughout this next segment, it's going to seem like he doesn't have a leg to stand on. The man makes a complete buffoon of himself at every turn, and yet despite it all, he ended up winning the suit.
If he gets that penis enlargement, he will always have a third leg to stand on.
And essentially walked away with the rights to an entire comic book universe.
The Pender Chronicles.
Afraid to open email attachments or make payments.
All right, you're not too bad with these commercials here. The first one was just because I went back.
BioWare released
to show you Comic Drake's nice suit.
The Nintendo DS called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Although the game was just okay, Sonic Chronicles was a love letter to all things Sonic, which of course included the comics. The antagonists of the game are the titular Dark Brotherhood, aka the Nocturnus Clan, a group of ancient echidnas that were sealed away within a dimension called the Twilight Cage by...
Ken Penders has a huge hard-on for Knuckles, doesn't he? I bet you he comes in Knuckles' hair all the time. What would you call that? His dreadlocks, his hair, that's part of his head.
Knuckles' ancestors. There is zero doubt that these guys were inspired by the Dark Legion from the Archie comics. You know, a group of ancient echidnas that were sealed away within a dimension called the Twilight Zone by Knuckles' ancestors. But where things got real messy is that Sonic Chronicles prominently featured a character named Shade, an ass-kicking female echidna that defected from the Nocturnus clan. Just like Julie Sue.
Oh my God, he jerks off to so many of these. Look at how Ken Penders illustrates these. Andy asks, can I sponsor this show by getting you premium? Sure. I don't know what getting premium means. You absolutely can get a promotion if this premium thing gets filled up.
Sue, Ken's writer's pet, who is an ass-kicking female echidna that defected from the Dark Legion. Now, this shouldn't be an issue.
Ooh, sexy. This is a girl who came from the dark side.
After all, Penders is working with Archie Comics as a work-for-hire freelancer, and everything he wrote for them is the legal property of Sega.
Oh, the YouTube Premium. Now I get it. Should I get the premium? I probably should get the premium. That's one thing I also like judging these people on is how often they put their commercials in there. Does it make my show suffer, or is it part of the critiquing? I am unsure. I've dragged it into part of the show, being the critiquing of how dare you put another commercial so soon.
He even said as much himself in an interview with Sonic HQ News in 1999, stating, quote,
part of the contract Sega has with Archie stipulates any and all characters created in the Sonic & Knuckles comic books become property of Sega. Thus, Sega now owns everything I created in the Knuckles series, including Locke, Lara Lee, and Julie Sue.
This is a standard agreement. When you are working for someone and you create something under that umbrella, they own it.
Nothing of characters like Jeffrey St. John, Hershey, Dr. Quack, and Robbo the Hedge, to name but a few.
In spite of all of that, Penders still thought that he deserved a cut of the game's profits and demanded that Archie's editor-in-chief, Victor Gorelek, give him a copy of his original contract, to which Gorelek replied, "There isn't one." This prompted Ken to go ahead and file copy.
Oh, shit. You did not get this crazy person to sign that contract. And here we go. He's like, I own these. You do not have me under contract. Oh, son of a bitch.
Copyrights for everything that he had ever done for the company, including his original characters. And listen, for as much as I have been and will continue to shit on Penders during this video, I actually have to side with him here. These stories and characters were oftentimes weird and unnecessary, but they were his weird and unnecessary stories and characters. And if Archie was going to be this incompetent with her filings, then Ken would be stupid not to try and take full ownership of his work.
Yeah, I'd want to do the same thing, honestly. All these characters that I spent these years creating, ooh, you guys fucked up, and you really don't own them because I didn't sign your silly contract.
Yeah, everyone, himself included, understood that Sega should own the work, but as someone that believes in creators' rights, I think this was a valid move. On top of that, Archie Comics has a long and storied history of screwing over its creators. Most famously, there's Dan DeCarlo, who developed the entire Archie style and created some of the most famous characters like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Josie and the Pussycats. I mean, hell, Josie is even named after his wife. DeCarlo worked at Archie Comics for decades, but was never given a proper cut of the earnings when his creations were adapted into other mediums, so he sued his employer. But they clapped back with, "Nope, you were work for hire, bucko," and they fired him. Which, I mean, yeah, that's accurate and can't be disputed, but that's not the most egregious issue. What brings...
I was unaware of this, of Archie Comics letting Ken Penders slip through without a contract for all those years. I thought he was just being a crazy person, but he was being a crazy person with reason.
My blood to a boil is how DeCarlo was scrubbed from the history of Archie Comics altogether, such as this page that breaks the fourth wall as Betty declares him to be her favorite artist. But when it was re-released, the dialogue was completely rewritten to remove any mention of DeCarlo. Once again...
Very Vince McMahon of Archie Comics to go back and cut out DeCarlo's name. Ken Penders, insane with a plan. That is the good place to be. I was unaware that he had such a good... Thank you, Comic Drake. I was unaware that Ken Penders actually did have the right to sue Sega because, foolishly, they didn't give him a contract.
I am not a fan of Ken Penders, but a victory here against Archie Comics is a victory for creators all over the industry who have been taken advantage of and disrespected by the companies they worked for. Regardless, the US Copyright Office sent notices of Ken's filings to both Sega and Archie, allowing them an opportunity to challenge his claim of ownership. But neither company...
The way he said ownership sounded like bonership. I am sometimes such a boomer, as Annie was saying earlier, of getting me a premium with no ads. I'm like, premium? Sponsor? What the fuck are you talking about? And sometimes... I am a millennial. I go back and forth between being a boomer and a millennial. Hey there, G-Rob. Thanks for joining us here on Nerd Week. We have this comic book nerd today, a TV nerd tomorrow, and James Rolfe, the boring man behind the angry video game nerd on Wednesday before the relaunch of Annie's What Is This Game Show, where we will talk about Civ 6. And while I am taking this little break, we will get in the shill segment where I tell you to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thank you for chatting. You can comment after this video is finished with as well. That helps the algorithm and people find this. And one day, hopefully I start making money off this. As we mentioned earlier, subreddit surfing. Maybe I will be making money as a producer of that coming up soon. And I'm really hoping that my guest, she is not feeling well, but she wants to make the appearance tonight. I do have a topic which I can fill in for, and I have a certain amount of knowledge of in case she can't make it. But her point of view would be very much appreciated. And yeah, she has got me on the edge of my seat of hoping that she can indeed make it while feeling unwell. Subreddit surfing tonight at 8:00 p.m. Now, back to our buddy Comic Drake talking about artists over at Archie Comics. And fucking A, I did not think I was going to become a fan of crazy, insane Ken Penders. You found a loophole and you scored a point point for artists.
He responded, granting Ken victory by default. The best kind of victory. That being said, though, if you actually take a look at the
oh, we've got a video clip of winning just like that. Homer Simpson, what do you think of winning by default?
Default! Woohoo! The two sweetest words in the English language. Default, default, default.
Where'd you get that anyway? Sent away?
And Rochi wanting a little Cardiff voice. Do you want to go subreddit surfing? Subreddit surfing. Yeah, Ken Penders, I thought was going to be the heel in this, Andy. He is the face. He is like the anti-hero, the good guy. Stone Cold Steve Penders here.
Look at the certificates that Penders filed, he was only seeking ownership for the text and art that he created. And from what I can see, there's nothing about the characters, which is interesting because that was what Ken was specifically boasting about owning. Even though I'm rocking this very stylish vest and tie combo, I am by no means a copyright lawyer. But several of them have taken a look over these documents, and if the characters weren't involved, then you would think that...
This coffee mug says Heist Con. I'm unfamiliar with Heist Con. I got this at a marijuana convention in Las Vegas.
Somebody would have brought that up. And since they didn't, then we can just assume that for all intents and purposes, Ken's filings did in fact give him copyright of these characters. With his ownership of the IP now cemented, Penders sent a cease and desist letter to Archie, claiming that their continued use of his original characters was completely unauthorized. Although editor Mike Paroletto claimed that Ken's claims were, quote, bizarre and unfounded, and that a single phone call from Archie's legal team would have sent him packing, the Penmeister refused to back down, stating that he would use, quote, every legal means at his disposal to protect and preserve his rights, challenging...
I thought I was going to hate Ken Penders by this point in the video. I fucking love this insane man. You found a loophole. Your higher-ups at Archie fucked up, and you're taking advantage of it. Go, Ken. Ken.
Archie to make a move. Oh, and in the meantime, Penders went ahead and sued Sega and Electronic Arts for ripping off his concept of the Dark Legion in Sonic Chronicles.
Oh, shit!
Archie finally took defensive action.
Oh, fuck yes! Ken Penders, you wonderful, insane person! He is suing everybody!
By filing a lawsuit of their own against Penders, hoping to settle once and for all who properly owned the various stories and characters, even though they had previously dropped the ball entirely by not responding to the Copyright Office's invitation to challenge Ken's claims in the first place. Now, remember how Ken was told that his original work-for-hire contract didn't exist?
Google Fiber has a 99% reliable...
Yeah, and he would absolutely deserve a sponsorship. I don't exactly understand the sponsors. At one point, I think I got to be a sponsor over on B Dabbler's channel. It just happened. I'm like sitting there. Dillon's a sponsor. I am? Neat. Yeah, maybe I should go to premium. I've been working it into the show format of judging people on how often they have commercials, and we're going to count that as 2 commercials in 15 minutes, which is not bad. The first one was my fault for backing up the video because I wanted to show you his snazzy outfit here when I started. Oh, yes, I muted because of the commercial.
And it was pretty sus. See, this document was signed in 1996.
This is on regular speed, G-Rob. I did have it at 1 1/4 for a couple of minutes. And once De La spoke up, I was like, yeah, you're right. 1 1/4 is way too much for this guy. This is indeed at normal speed. 1 1/4 was, just like Trisha Paytas, was not comprehensible enough. I was kind of thinking that, but once De La said something in the comments, it's like, yeah, we cannot do 1 1/4 on this guy like we do for many of our co-host audition hosts.
2 years after Penders began his tenure on the Sonic comic. Archie's lawyers claimed this was because the original contract was lost or destroyed due to incompetence on their part, and Ken was given this one afterwards so they would at least have something on the record. Now, just to make things clear, this new 1996 contract was just a photocopy, with Archie's lawyers unable to find the original.
There was also a sponsorship thing, Rochi. Memberships, yeah, I've got mine turned on for all the channels I want to be part of, but you'll see it pop up sometimes of people just became a sponsor, and I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I got a sponsorship at some point on, I believe, the B Dabbler channel.
And for those keeping track at home, this means that Archie somehow managed to lose 2 of Ken's contracts. Penders refused to believe this and took things a step further by asserting that the 1990.
So Ken Penders did have an interim contract that did exist, and Archie Comics just fucking lost it. He had the first one that was the official one that never existed, and the first one they just fucking lost.
1996 document was a straight up forgery. And he claimed that a comic publisher like Archie would have all the tools and skills necessary to forge a document like this, which, although it's not inaccurate, that is a huge accusation. Considering that Ken had been so confident about his claims and was goading Archie to come at him, you would think that he wouldn't have any issue with duking it out with him in the courtroom. But as soon as the lawsuit was thrown his way, Penders tried his very best to have the entire case dismissed over a lack of jurisdiction since it was filed in New York. After all, Penders doesn't live in New York. He has never done business in New York. And he was living off of unemployment with less than $500 in his bank account, so he couldn't travel to New York for a court hearing. Again, I know I'm rocking the vest and tie combo, but I'm not a financial advisor. But if you don't have a source,
but look at your fancy hair. I need to start upping my hair game. I used to be very much stylistically with my hair, but since I moved here to somewhere, I haven't been as vain as I was in Los Angeles. And I need to talk to David Chandler about sponsoring a movie. Hey, David Chandler, you got some money. How would you like to make a pilot for a sketch comedy show? Seems like you got the money for it, but you know, you could keep giving it to that mud shark fellow if you'd like, but sketch comedy, sketch comedy pilot,
source of income, maybe it's not the best idea to file over 135 copyrights at $45 a pop, hire a lawyer, and try to take on two of the biggest video game publishers of all time over one of the most famous mascots in all of gaming history.
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is at regular speed, believe it or not. This blah, 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 blah is regular speed. You take it down a notch. I get there sometimes too, Comic Drake. This is a bit much, this rapid fire, blah, 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 blah.
And try to take on two of the biggest video game publishers of all time over one of the most famous mascots in all of gaming history, while simultaneously trying to claim ownership of a major comic book publisher's best-selling series because you think you own the concept of evil Sonic from an alternate dimension that wears sunglasses and a leather jacket.
That looks like a slightly upgraded panel from Sonichu. This exists. That looks like Chris Chan Sonichu with the sunglasses there, and that's actually, there were two blue Sonichus, weren't there? The original Sonichu, of course, was yellow, but then, oh my goodness, so many Sonichus, Bundy Chew, the Nazi Chews.
This motion to dismiss was denied, and Penders was flung straight into the fray. So yeah, at this point, Ken is dealing with two lawsuits at the same time. So things are going to get a little bit chaotic as we bounce back and forth between them.
Such as the chaotic combo?
So let's start off with the Archie case, since that's definitely the most involved of the two. Ken's team came out swinging with 3 letters from former Sonic comic writers and artists that all backed up his claims that they were never given work for hire contracts, with Scott Shaw also stating that he's following...
Okay, we're starting to get in the weeds. Maybe we should get a little review. Jay Sherman, what did you think of the Sonic comics by Ken Penders?
It stinks.
Oh, so we're not even fighting over something that's good. Son of a bitch.
Footsteps by registering copyrights for his creations as well, which he got. On top of that, Penders claimed that former Archie editor Justin Gabry once told him that he had approached Archie's higher-ups with a suggestion that...
Chuck McGill, what do you think of this bad comic bookery by Ken Penders?
You think this is bad? This chicanery? He's done worse.
Boy, I wouldn't want to see that worse. Let's just stick with this chicanery.
That they include work for hire language on all of their checks, just to keep things above board. But he was told by those higher-ups that it was completely unnecessary. Archie's legal team insisted on referring to Ken's 1996 contract, and they clapped back at his assertion that it was a forgery, as it was mere speculation and conjecture at best, and at its worst, it's a perversion of our judicial system. When directly questioned about the document's authenticity while under oath, Penders immediately backed down like the spineless bastard that he is. Meanwhile...
Oh, spineless bastard Ken, we were on your side. Don't be a spineless bastard. And let's hear what Archie Comics was saying to Ken Penders.
I want a commitment. I want to give a commitment, and I want to have a commitment.
They wanted that commitment, but they never had him sign those commitment papers.
While Ken's lawsuit over at Sega and EA was dismissed, despite all parties involved wanting to continue further. The judge basically told Penders that he needed to finish things up with Archie first because the ruling of that case would have a significant impact on his lawsuit against Sega and EA. But ignoring this completely, Penders refiled the Sega EA case just 4 days later.
One lawsuit at a time, sir. Fuck that shit.
Now, of course, I will take every single opportunity to continuously dunk on Penders, but refiling this quickly wasn't just because he was impatient. See, the statute of limitations on copyright...
Ken Penders doing a lot of multitasking with his lawsuits. He is sending them down, not that long pike that we're familiar with that Michael Popak took, but he took them on a more direct route. Meanwhile, Rochi had a little problem with his multitasking. He has some fucking cheese on his lap. Good luck with that cheese. Hopefully there's a doggy to come lick it up for you, but don't let that doggy lick too long, or else you'll get a little Ken Penders-y.
Copyright infringement is only 3 years, which was fast approaching for Sonic Chronicles. So Ken was worried that if he didn't have his day in court as soon as possible, then he would miss out on the opportunity to receive damages. Now, it's worth noting that because this case was dismissed without prejudice, Penders could refile it at any time to collect said damages, but they would only be for the continued sales of the game. He wouldn't get a cent of the initial sales in 2008, which is where the vast majority of the purchases were made, unless he filed before the...
Really getting in the weeds here. And yeah, he believes that he has been wronged, and he is telling the courts...
Fix it, 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 fix it.
But did the courts fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it?
Before the statute of limitations was up. Even though this concern was plenty valid, the same judge dismissed Ken's refiling by basically telling him,
Order in the court, please. Okay, so before we get started... Ken? Guilty. I literally just told you to get your shit settled with Archie before coming back here. The hell are you breathing in my presence for?
In the midst of all of this, Penders unveiled his most infamous creation, the Lara Sue Chronicles.
Oh boy, here we go. Furry jerk-off material ahoy.
Series of graphic novels starring his original...
Oh, and he's releasing this without the 2 lawsuits being wrapped up. So, what are you doing, Mr. Penders? You can't do this yet.
Characters that would be a reworking of his plot for Sonic Armageddon. Remember, this was announced in the middle of the lawsuit against Archie Comics over these characters. So Ken covered his tracks by making the characters legally distinct. For one, the art style is different, to say the least. Also, these aren't echidnas. No. These are alien...
Yes, that courtroom was Cardiff's background. That must be a stock court background of the internet folk that I haven't stumbled on yet.
Echidnas. Oh, and even if it was later decided that Penders did in fact own his original characters, it is impossible to deny that he doesn't and will never own Knuckles.
That's a fun little play on words, Dela. Treat the like button like your arch nemesis and hit it over and over again. Well, actually, if you hit it over and over again, it'll like and then unlike and then like and then unlike. So make sure you hit it with one good wallop, or else you might end up not liking it at the end of the marathon hitting.
So instead, Ken just renamed him to Nox, but made zero effort to differentiate him from the version that he wrote in a storyline in the future that he had made for the Archie Comics books. Speaking of Archie, though, let's get back to that lawsuit. This should have been an open and shut
that is definitely
their incompetence.
That is definitely Cardiff's courtroom. I do not have that overlay. And Cardiff, I will see later tonight on subreddit surfing. Isaac Walmart. I'm hoping my guest can make it. She's feeling unwell, but I do have insight into the topic in case that she is too unwell to make it in tonight. And everyone become a big kahuna, a member of subreddit surfing, to vote either on me or Jimmy the Lip. Hold on. Let me say that again. Become a big kahuna so you can vote for me or Jimmy the Lip and decide who will become the regular producer of subreddit surfing. Thank you for dropping in. Wit, Ken Penders ate a man in Colorado during the 2000s. I've already said too much. Oh my goodness, a cannibal. There's only a few cannibals who aren't in prison in this world.
Every step of the way wasn't doing them any favors. So they straight up fired their entire legal team and hired a new one mid-trial. Eventually, though, Penders and Archie's new team agreed to settle the case. But
How are we losing against Penders? Get the fuck out. You're fired. It's because you guys fucked up from the beginning. Go crazy, Ken.
Couldn't come to terms as to what that would even look like. During these negotiations, Archie Comics did their very best to wipe their hands clean of Ken's characters altogether. First, they had
it's gonna take some very industrial soap to get that Ken Penders goop off of you.
Dillon basically yeet every echidna that wasn't Knuckles into an alternate dimension, never to be seen again. This was followed up by the incredible Mega Man.
That is a good answer. Every single, everyone except Knuckles, bye. They don't exist in this dimension anymore. They exist in the Penders verse right next to Quickville.
And Sonic crossover, which ended with a phenomenon called the Super Genesis Wave, which irreparably altered the Sonic comic universe by essentially obliterating all of Ken's over 244 characters out of existence and rewriting the timeline. I'll be honest, this isn't a huge loss.
He was a busy man. Then again, that was his baby. He was in charge. So 244, 45 characters. Wow, that's a lot of echidnas.
Characters were just these so many unnecessary echidnas, and people like Sonic, but a girl, and Sonic, but he's Robin Hood. And see, that's
Blaze Bob Sonichu.
That's really the crux of it.
Ken Penders, there are a lot of similarities with Kristen Weston Chandler, with the way that he writes these comics.
The reason that Ken and Archie couldn't agree on a settlement was due to the nature of the majority of these characters being derivative works of characters that at the end of the day are clearly owned by Sega. Therefore, it was difficult to come up with a fair agreement of terms without Sega's direct involvement. But here's the crucial thing. If Daddy Sega got involved in the case, then Archie would have to be responsible for covering their legal fees, and they did not want to do that. Not to mention that bringing them in this incredibly stupid lawsuit would really hurt their working relationship.
Rochi remembers when Sonic and Mario being in a game was a wet dream, and yeah, now they've been to the Olympics together, every Olympics since what, 2004? Since Sega was, after the Dreamcast came first. Poor Dreamcast. They came to the market first with the new next generation, but PS2 and the Xbox were able to refine what the Dreamcast was trying to do much better than what the Dreamcast did, but they were the first on the market. Unfortunately, they didn't last on the market. Dayla, thanks for plugging the Discord. We will do a after show chat on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm kind of running into the Creep Off. A lot of crossover fans of the Creep Off here if I do it on Mondays. So it'll be Tuesdays and Thursdays. But anyone who wants to check out the Dillon from Somewhere Discord, that is the link right there. You can send me some suggestions for future co-host audition hosts, some TikTok drops, or just come around and bullshit. If you like to make shitty Photoshops, I like to make shitty Photoshops too. They're fun stuff. Drop them in the Dillon from Somewhere Discord.
Because of the issue of derivative works, it was looking like this case was going to have to be taken to trial by jury, which would need its own approval. When Archie's new legal team came before the judge and laid out the situation, he said, quote, "So are you saying prior counsel blew it?" To which Archie's lawyer responded without missing a beat, "Absolutely, Your Honor." About a month later, the two parties were able to come to a
disavow what our lawyers were doing. This guy is our lawyer now. What he says goes.
Without taking the case to jury. Archie refused to acknowledge that Ken owns the copyrights to his characters, but agreed that they would not pursue legal action against him if the art specifically doesn't look or feel like it belongs within the Sonic universe.
Yeah, it still sounds like I have him at 1 1/4 speed, don't I? It is at normal speed. He is like the anti-Hannibal. Hannibal, who I take at double speed, and he still sounds slow. Do I have to take you at half speed, Mr. Comic Drake?
Which certainly explains why the Lara Stu Chronicles looks the way it does. With this half win under his belt, Penders set his sights back on Sega and EA to finally see if he could get that pot of
He really likes changing those backgrounds.
Gold that he thought was owed to him from the sales of Sonic Chronicles. But the problem here is that even when he first filed this all the way back in 2010, the sales for the game had pretty much dried up.
He's inside the Dabble court. So, yeah, maybe he already is a judge in the Dabble court. We can take our problems to Comic Drake if we have, if Judge Cardiff is unavailable.
Or as Sega's lawyer put it in this released audio from the hearing,
he stated in his complaint that he believes that the sales began in July of 2008, but he didn't even file suit against my clients until September 26th. I'm sorry, May 31st, 2011, which is 2.5 years after the first sales allegedly began.
So it's now a thimble of gold.
Well, the pot was gone at that point.
And with that, the case...
We smoked the pot, man. Thank you, Dayla. Sounds like he will be fielding some questions in the Discord after the show today. And yes, I will be in for an audio after show on Tuesdays and Thursdays regularly in the Discord.
Case against Sega and EA was at long last dismissed without prejudice. Throughout all these trials and tribulations, all Ken walked away with was an intense desire by all of these companies to never see him again. Archie doesn't republish his...
Yeah, that is a problem. If you're going this hard against the company that employed you, you will have your intellectual property, it seems. Ken Penders did have a legal precedent to say, this is my property, because they done fucked up with their contract, but no one wants to work with you again. And I'll back this up 5 seconds. As he was about to say, none of Ken Penders' comics are being republished. He's stuttering John'd himself out of being mentioned by Archie Comics again, the same way that fool got himself edited off the Stern Show. They talk around his stupid questions and instead of playing him asking the stupid questions. Poor Ken Penders. We thought that he was going to be a hero of the autistic, but it sounds like that he just became a stumbling, bumbling fool.
Intense desire by all of these companies to never see him again. Archie doesn't republish his work, and the cliffhanger at the end of Sonic Chronicles is going to be forever unresolved, with the game itself being labeled as non-canon with no plans for future sequels. And because the companies simply don't want to bother...
It's officially non-canon. This stuff that happened, we are now officially saying this is the old 52, not the new 52, not the original. We are calling it the old 52. It never existed.
Penders keeps making these self-indulgent victory laps by constantly going on Twitter to brag about his work and his quote-unquote wins in court. He is throwing every single character that he has ever made into the Lara Sue Chronicles because he knows nobody's going to do anything about it. Though he doesn't realize that he's such small potatoes that it's easier for them to just let Penders be an annoying little pest than give him the time of day. Penders even decided to push the envelope by straight up stealing the character of Shade from Sonic Chronicles by giving her armor and name to Julie Sue, even though he had literally nothing to do with Shade's design or creation in the first place. But I mean, what are Sega and EA going to do about it? Go back to court over a long-forgotten character from a long-forgotten game just because this man-child can't move on past his glory days? Look, there is...
Ken Penders, you are such a Christian. I want to support you. Like, I went on a full roundabout of coming in here. I know Ken Penders is full of shit and I don't like this guy, to being completely on his side, and now you're turning me again. Very good argument, Comic Drake. You have taken me on a roller coaster of emotion with this autist who rose up out of his own basement and actually worked for Sega.
Zero doubt that Penders was a prolific creator and left a massive impact on the world of Sonic. But as it's done for almost 2 decades since his departure, it can do...
Okay, 3 commercials in over 30 minutes here. 3 commercials in 25 minutes.
Despite this,
he gets a thumbs up from me. That is a proper amount of commercials in 30 minutes. 3. There was a 4th, but as I said, that was my fault for backing up the video.
Penders is still chiming away on Twitter, constantly threatening more lawsuits, which he never follows through on, while also constantly boasting about how he's more than happy to license his characters out to Sega for any Sonic-related project that they might want to do.
They don't want the characters anymore, Ken. You done pissed them off. Those characters are non-canon now. Fuck you, Penders, said Archie, said Sega.
Also open to license out his characters for original works as well, which he did.
Ooh, guys, he'll license those characters out to us. Don't you want to see all those echidnas in the Dabbleverse comics?
And led to its own controversy. And you know what? That is actually a great...
I want to license these characters. I'm gonna have to do some research on this extended echidna family, put in a little overarching what I can do with these characters, and then I'm sure Ken Penders is asking way too fucking much, especially for someone who's not making any money. Very fun last night. Isaac Walmart asking, actually just calling me out when they were like, we're looking for new unpaid interns over at Tukey Soup. And it sounds like a fun job. I would like to work for them, but I've got enough jobs that don't pay. I can't take on any more jobs that don't pay, Isaac Walmart. I must take on jobs that actually have an income to them.
Great segue into our final segment about all the other weird, bad, embarrassing, and gross stuff that Penders has been up to.
Kenneth the Menace. Sounds like Scott Malkinson.
Before we get into the licensing controversy, let's talk about some of the other weird and problematic stuff that Ken Penders is responsible for. I already talked about the weird Nazi shit in part 1.
Yes, you did. I did not know that was a thing. Ken Penders and Chris Chan. Did the Idea guys get a hold of Ken Penders too to get Nazism in an official Archie Comics Sonic adventure? This is madness. I'm sticking to this to the end. 5 more minutes of play, and that is start-stop. So we're going over 60 minutes today, baby.
How he's constantly trying to pair 16-year-old Sally Acorn with 25-year-old Joffrey, who is literally just Pepe Le Pew, but a soldier. But don't worry, it's okay, because Sally is actually 32 in squirrel years, and even if she wasn't, the age of consent in Utah is 16. Look, I don't trust anyone.
This is some Chris Chan shit. Guys, they may be... Wait, I need to get my Chris Chan voice on. I'm not very good at it. I need to listen to some new Chris Chan, but Sonichu's, even though they are 4 years old, they are 20 in Sonichu years.
Who knows what the age of consent laws are in random states off the top of their head. But what about the weird tickle fetish commission art that he did? How about the fact that he requires people to put...
Welcome, American Cupcake. You are just in time for Ken Penders getting into the fetish material. Ken Penders has been playing all around the fetish material, but oh boy, tickle fetish material with echidnas. Ken Penders, you perv, you.
His copyrights on
this is supposed to be for kids.
And art and fan fiction. What about the time when Scourge impersonated Sonic and tricked Bunny into laying with him, where it's heavily implied that they had sex? That's just assault. And you know what? Okay, let's talk about Scourge. Originally, he was just an evil version of Sonic from an alternate evil universe named Evil Sonic. Well, in literally the first issue after Penders left Archie Comics, the new Sonic writer Ian Flynn completely redid his character by turning him into the fan favorite Scourge the Hedgehog. In 2001, though...
the legally distinct from the legally distinct. Wow. Go, Scourge, go, you green bastard. Oh, wow. He got his own spin-off series, huh? Rush Comics. Broke away from Archie Comics.
Decided to license Scourge to the indie publisher Rush Comics.
I know, that's what I thought, Rochi. But all these Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonichu, the electric hedgehog, Pokemon, Sonic, whatever the fuck Chris Chan did. Wow, these weirdos. This is official. Like, Sonichu is just an very autistic man's madness. But this was official. Holy shit.
You might have noticed that name and design are all things that weren't the creation of Ken Penders, and presumably he doesn't actually have the rights to hand those out. It's like how Winnie the Pooh is now a public domain character, but if you give him a red shirt, then that's Disney's version of the character, and you can get sued for that. Well, funny thing about the Scourge comic, the lead artist for the book was outed as being a white supremacist, and the Sonic community rightfully tore him to shreds. Plus,
okay, and he has a hold of this. Sonic is for kids. Sonic fans are not for kids. And here we have Sonic fans infiltrating the world of Sonic comic books. You guys fucked up. This was supposed to be kids. You were supposed to leave the other shit on DeviantArt.
Ryder's previous work was about a speedster character that ripped women's clothes off. So assault. These dudes got so much backlash for that, and also just for being associated with Penders in the first place, that they had to cancel the comic in like a couple of days. They put out this really passive-aggressive apology and said that they refunded all of the donations, but here's the kicker. The Patreon that was funding them only got $29 in pledges. In other Penders trash, Ken announced his plan.
I don't have a buzzer sound effect, so that will have to work for now. I believe Sonic inadvertently created a lot of these furries. I think a lot of furries actually admit that it began with Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid, and just has completely gone out of control. Actually, as a kid, one of my first crushes, I remember two of my first crushes: Cyndi Lauper, that one human, second one April O'Neil. Luckily, she was a human in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle world. I was not attracted to any of the turtles because I like the ladies.
Plans to get into the NFT game, with each of them priced at $100,000. Yeah, if you want to be the proud owner of this god-awful JPEG and access to bonus material for the weird Space Echidna book that is probably never, ever going to see the light of day.
Oh, she definitely has a special belt built in to her robotic parts. She is a female, but that special belt just comes out, unlike Rose Chew, who was retconned by fans, and eventually Chris Chan accepted that she was born with a winky.
Then go nuts. You never deserve to have that kind of money in the first place. We also have Ken getting up in arms about the live-action Sonic movies because
me and Annie can go down a rabbit hole of talking about how hot cartoon April O'Neil is. And then you had Irma to help her look all the hotter, because Irma, she was just made to be a goof and the comic foil there. Whereas, cartoon April O'Neil, hey now.
There's echidnas in them, screaming to the heavens that those are his characters. Nothing has actually come out of this, though, because Ken just loves to threaten lawsuits and then do literally nothing. But he has claimed that he's
Ken
not...
Penders is better with his lawsuits than the gaming guys. Oh, fuck, why can't I remember his name? But the Billy Mitchell and his buddy, Billy Mitchell was better at him. Todd Rogers, whose lawyer gave so little fucks, he filed documents saying Todd Todgers. American Cupcake. I'm unfamiliar with Mei Ming from Robotech. I am going to have to look into that. I like to make werewolf movies.
Scared of going to bat against Paramount. Maybe he's just waiting for the Knuckles TV show to drop so he can rage even more. Oh, and let's not forget that Ken also acts like he's the one that invented the concept of Sonic standing on a plane. Sir, that was from the goddamn video game. You didn't make that. The best thing that Ken Penders has ever done was set the stage for his successor, Ian Flynn, to clean up his mess and rework the Sonic comics into something even better. Even when Archie Comics lost the rights to the Sonic license in 2017, Flynn went over to IDW to write the reboot. And you know what? It's really fucking good. And that's even with the fuck ton of mandates and restrictions from Sega, who are trying to prevent another Pendering from ever happening ever again. The IDW Sonic comics are, in my opinion, some of the best Sonic-related anything out there. And the love and passion...
Okay, I actually haven't heard of this new Sonic relaunch. I was familiar with some of the madness going on under the Archie comics and Ken Penders, but something actually good? I was unaware.
That Ian Flynn has for his work and his fans is incredible. Meanwhile, Penders is constantly shit-talking about Flynn on Twitter because he's so desperate to live in the past. Ken Penders is a sad, sad man. He hasn't worked on Sonic in almost 20 years, and yet he's devoted his life to it. He's a deeply bitter narcissist who's constantly yelling about his detractors on Twitter and hyping himself up as this creative savant, despite having not delivered anything for his beloved Laura Sue Chronicles. Look, I get it. Twitter brings out the worst.
Laura Sue, the highly sexualized echidna. He can't fuck Knuckles. He's a man. Gross. But we can fuck Knuckles' daughter. Let's go into the future.
People. The website actively encourages outrage, misinformation, and hate, with everybody trying their hardest to be witty assholes. I hate the person that Twitter encourages me to be, which is why I've left the platform entirely and hope to God that I am not masochistic enough to ever return to it. But Ken, I know you're watching this. You are deeply invested in your self-image, and you never miss an opportunity to engage in the digital self-harm that is watching negative videos about yourself. I have said a lot of mean things.
And he did mention up front, Comic Drake here, that he might get striked by Ken Penders because he is just looking for himself on the internet. You shouldn't do that. That's a really bad idea, Mr. Penders.
It's about you in this video, but I'm begging you, it's time to let Sonic go. Making yourself into this clown honk.
Oh no, Ken Penders cannot let Sonic go. Sonic is permanently attached to Ken Penders' dick.
An echidna shows up is not doing you any favors. Yes, I think your current art is
I actually just stumbled upon another weird Sonic fan. Jay Sonic has a bunch of Sonic plushies that he fucks, and he keeps them for decades on end. So that is what I picture Ken Penders like, having his Knuckles plushie that he puts a pink bow on, calling it his daughter, and just fucking it every day.
absolutely disgusting to look at. But you have shown that you're capable of making decent stuff. The Lara Sue Chronicles is not going to be a hit. It's not even going to be mildly successful. And I know that you know that. The best thing that you can do is just move on, man. Get off of Twitter. Take a breather. Disengage from Sonic discourse and use that creative brain to make something original. But guys, that's it. That's all I have. I want to give a big thank you to the Thanks Ken Penders.
All right. Thank you for giving us those words, Comic Drake. Already putting yourself in 1 1/4 speed. Me putting you at 1 1/4 speed at the beginning. That was like 2 times speed. That was too much. And yes, it does appear, Annie, that well, it doesn't appear. It definitely is. Ken Penders and Knuckles is like Chris Chan and Sonic. So I didn't think I would come out of this with an appreciation for Ken Penders. But the fact that this crazy person had an actual right to bring up those lawsuits against Archie Comics and went up against them, you fantastic, insane bastard. You did it and got yourself blackballed. Whoops. Sometimes you get blackballed for going after what you believe in. Rochi says he is a nerd for having Sonic on Minecraft. I haven't really played the Minecraft. I've seen my nephew playing it, but I'm very unfamiliar with the Minecraft. And we do have a TikTok about the Flintstones comic from back in the day. We're running a little long, so we'll see how many of these comic book talks we get to. This one is a bit long. We're going to have a reading from an absolutely unhinged Flintstones comic from back in the day by Motion Toast.
Known that the Charleston Flintstones comics are just some of the worst. They're really, really bad. Badly written, badly drawn. It just seems like no one cared. They had the license, but no one really cared about the Flintstones. Adam and Betty Rubble, number 5, cover date September 1973. Please excuse
me. Okay, I could have leapt a little more. You're a little wordy here in this intro. You could have cut it down by half here, Mr. Toast.
My poor approximation of the voices of these characters, but I think this will be fun. Barney and Betty Rubble in Goodbye, Cruel World.
I've had it with these bills. I can't take it anymore. I feel like ending it all. Give me a knife, Betty.
Just right out of the box. Betty, help me with the self-elimination.
I think I'll try some of this cranberry jelly Rocky's wife made. Whoops! Darn it, now I'll have to go down to the river and wash up.
How does that relate? Give me a knife so I can have some jam.
Barney, where did he go?
I feel like ending it all. Give me a knife.
Oh, no.
You're just putting that together, Betty? That he was like, I've had enough of this. Give me something that will end it all.
No, this is terrible.
What? Yeah, just absolutely baffling writing. Give me a knife so I can eat some jam.
Oh, what's wrong, Betty?
Barney's gone and there's blood all over.
There's a trail of blood leading to the river.
He's ended everything.
Betty? Oh, I wonder where she went. Guess I'll take a nap. I know how you feel. Barn was a great guy.
Now he's in that great quarry in the sky.
Like the Simpsons, the Flintstones were a cartoon version of the Honeymooners, but neither Ralph Cramden nor Fred Flintstone dealt with ending it all themselves.
There.
Ralph Cramden did deal with domestic violence, but he never did bang Zoom. He only threatened the bang Zoom because he knew that Alice Cramden, she was his rock. You don't want to go and smack your rock up all the way to the moon.
Yow!
A ghost!
Oh, hi. Well, I'm no ghost. But.
What about all the blood?
What's that blood? That's cranberry jelly.
Jelly?
And Dillon can tell the difference.
And that was the story. They did not give a fuck. That was barely a narrative. Yeah, we are running long. So that is enough of the Flintstone comics for today. And yes, Rochi, we go out with a sexy clown like we always do. And our sexy clown today, I believe we've seen before, Pixie May Puddles, may not be too good at lip syncing, but she is very good at looking like a sexy clown. She almost certainly has a OnlyFans with this type of content that she is putting out. So let's see some shitty lip syncing by a sexy clown.
Yo, what the fuck are boobs? I'm a visual learner, by the way.
Could have taken a second take on that one, Pixie May. And since that was really quick, let's just do a few of these.
It's something that's better when it's thick instead of thin.
A person.
And one more shitty lip sync by a sexy clown who is not so good at the shitty lip syncs, but very good at the boobies.
Admit it, Benson.
No, you're not cool.
How about now, Benson?
Yes, I think you are very cool now. Actually, I thought you were very cool at all points with them titties. And we will go ahead and start wrapping on up. This has been a long episode because it was a 30-minute video. I do start stops with my host, and he talks way too fast to be anything but normal speed, maybe even half speed, as I said, with our buddy here, Comic Drake. Thank you, for Comic Drake, for informing us about Ken Penders. What a fun little weirdo. And there is the Discord link. Dela will be hosting a little audio after the show. I won't be there today, but Tuesday and Thursday after the show, I will stop in for about half an hour to do a little post-show audio on the Discord. Submit some people you think you would be good for a co-host audition, some TikToks around the clocks, and those sexy clown tits were definitely made up for that shitty lip syncing. She could definitely not be a Milli Vanilli singer. They got that new fetish acquired. All right, I got Annie in with the sexy clowns. See, you just needed to come across the proper sexy clown to get you into this weird world of Clussy, as they call it. And I'm actually a late comer too. Some of these sexy clowns have been up to it for about 5 years now. It's also a good place to get a free membership for subreddit surfing. That's right, subreddit surfing. Dela is handing out some subreddit surfing memberships. Thank you so much for your guys' support. I do my best to put on a fun show here, and I will do my best to put on a fun show at subreddit surfing. If I get the job, I will do that every week. And as I said, I'm hoping my guest can make it. She is not feeling well, and she will do her best to make an appearance on the show for a little while. But I did choose a subject that I have some knowledge in, and I have about half a dozen subjects that I have knowledge in, like as a fallback. They do want guests. That was part of the assignment for subreddit surfing producer. And yeah, I'm a little panicked that my guest won't be able to make it if she's feeling too under the weather, but she is going to try to be there for 60 of the 90 minutes. And I will have my own input if she cannot, well, if she makes it or not. I will have my own input in tonight's subreddit surfing at 8 p.m. Become a big kahuna to vote on me or Jamie the Lip to become the new producer of subreddit surfing. He had his episode last week on Tartaria, and mine, Vinny hasn't revealed it yet. Cardiff hasn't revealed it yet, but yeah, it will be coming up soon. And hey, I always come late too, Dillon. Fuck yeah, Rochi. And if you're on antidepressants always do that to your wiener. They make cumsies a little hard to do. Thank you all for joining. We started out a little slow, but picked up some steam. Thank you all for joining. This is Nerd Week to celebrate me and Annie being a nerd on the relaunch of her show, What Is This Game? Talking about Civ 6 live on Wednesday, and then going to do some post-production on it. And I'm looking forward to talking about this game that has that has taken away so much of my free time, because I am Firaxis did both Civilization 6 and XCOM 2. Oh, love both of those so much. And he says, I don't know if it matters, but the last episode was my least favorite episode of subreddit surfing. The guest, Jimmy the Lip, even with people who aren't a fan of mine, he has an uphill battle, because that guest wasn't the best. That guest was only slightly better than antinatalism Lawrence and the guy from the agnostic, whatever that one episode was, absolutely put me to sleep. And Jimmy the Lip has an uphill battle because of that guest. And my guest has a unique story. If she can't make it, I'm really hoping she can make it. But if she can't, I can show you what I can do on my own when the guest cannot make it. And Vinny and Cardiff have had that problem of guests not being able to make it and coming up with a new subject at the last minute. So that's what I offer as a producer. If the guest cancels, I do have a slew of things that I can get. Oh, thank you, Dayla. That is why you are the first mod. Having Annie's What Is This Game? The YouTube there. You can go subscribe to that and hit that notification bell to see when there are updates on Civilization 6. And I don't, I'm gonna have to get that Game Pass. Annie wants to do an XCOM game, and you were, as I've said a bunch of times, you're fucking me up sending me back to Xbox, since Xbox and Switch have the absolute opposite of ABXY. But I believe I have rambled on for quite enough now. Thank you all for joining so much. Come back for the rest of Nerd Week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Eastern tonight on subreddit surfing for a fun little subject. And thank you for coming. As I said, feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Places all join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right to your honey with the right left date. Grand right and left around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girls. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.